But more than 4 years later, where is it? There are no walkways, no playgrounds, and no places to sit. I'm doing a story on this, so I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to speak on the record about what's going on. Are you able to do an interview on the record? So are homeowners supposed to wait a year after Ian hit in order for their homes to be fixed?
We would hope not.
But should you camp out here or scroll through deals here? Court documents show Bella's 24-hour vet found her unfit for sale because she had parvo. Go to FloridaTreasureHunt.gov, that's this website right here, and then click search. All you need to do is type out your first and your last names. Lights are on, but she hasn't gotten a bill in months. One woman's concerns coming up. Pulled up for you already over here. And once you do book that appointment, you'll need to bring any of the relevant information or forms down here, like your W-2s. Holes in the ceiling, but this homeowner says the check from her insurance company bounced. Her months-long fight to get money in the bank coming up. Here are just some of the complaints we got here in the Wink News in the last 4 days. They came here today specifically so that they can use that big blue 20% off coupon, but if you're at home and watching, you're running out of time to use yours. Right where I'm standing, this should be where you sit down on the bench.
We've heard of Southwest Florida homeowners suing their insurance companies for sure after Ian to get a fair check to fix their homes, but what about the insurance company suing them?
Yeah, that's what People's Trust is doing to dozens of its own policyholders. The company claims they all violated their policies by repairing their Ian-damaged homes, not using the insurance company's contractor. Wink News consumer investigator Andryanna Sheppard explains how some homeowners are fighting back.
For more than a year, Mary Stewart and her family have been forced to live in their Ian-damaged Port Charlotte home.
Our ceilings are coming down in almost every room of the house.
Yeah, this is the first.
Every day, she sifts through this stack of papers. It's a lawsuit with nearly 200 pages of exhibits filed against her by her insurance company, People's Trust.
It's just more than what people should have to put up with when they're paying insurance to stop from having to do this stuff.
She found People's Trust difficult to deal with from the moment she filed her insurance claim. Stewart says the People's Trust field adjuster who documented her home's damage listed a lot of things incorrectly.
And I would call up and I said, hey, you've got some errors here. I'm a pretty honest person. And they didn't even want to talk to me.
After about 3.5 months, Stewart couldn't take it anymore. She pulled up all the flooring ruined by water and hired someone else to install tile.
Here it is a year later. My porch is still gone. That was my sanctuary. I don't have my sanctuary anymore.
Stewart doesn't know how People's Trust learned she started making repairs on her home, but she was served with the lawsuit 9 days before Hurricane Ian's 1-year mark.
They came to my front door. They gave the paperwork to my 17-year-old grandson.
I mean, this is our largest investment in our lives is your home, usually. And I'm supposed to just let it turn into a pile of junk because they're dragging their feet.
Chester Punick Ian Punta Gorda is going through the same thing. Ian destroyed his pool cage, ruined his roof, and knocked doors off their sliders.
They agreed with everything. The only thing that we didn't agree on is how much it's worth. I'm saying it was worth somewhere between $160,000 and $175,000. They made an offer of 60-something, and they made us a second offer of $90,000. It's not enough.
In February, he started working on his house, and People's Trust sued him in July, even though one of the company's desk adjusters sent him this email saying he did not have to use People's Trust's preferred contractor to fix his home if he takes the settlement offer.
After they sued us, they came up with a third settlement of $75,000. So they went down. They went from 66 to 91 down to 75, thinking that, well, we sued them, now they're afraid they'll just accept it.
But he hasn't, and Punick and Stewart are not the only homeowners People's Trust is taking to court. The company's chief operating officer told me they sued about 100 policyholders. I counted more than 50 lawsuits filed after Ian in Charlotte County alone. It boils down to this part of customers' policies: the preferred contractor endorsement and right to repair clauses. The state's insurance consumer advocate Tasha Carter broke down what those are.
Your insurance company may have the legal right to repair your property damage. And so instead of paying you as the policyholder a claim settlement for you to then make the repairs to your property. The insurance company will hire contractors to repair your property.
Homeowners typically get a premium discount if these provisions are in their policies.
If you ask somebody if they would take a $67 discount in lieu of getting their house fixed timely, nobody would in their right mind would take that.
Now Punicki and Stewart are in for lengthy court battles.
We buy insurance to protect us from the financial injuries of having damage to our home. These people are not doing that. I don't understand why they're even allowed to carry insurance in the state of Florida if they're not going to make sure your home gets fixed.
Both Punicki and Stewart told me they aren't going down without a fight. Stewart's attorney believes the state needs to look into People's Trust, so I brought his thoughts to the company's chief operating officer. He defends their actions, and you'll hear from him about why People's Trust is spending money taking their own policyholders to court on Week News at 10. Back to you.
Okay.
Mary Stewart was overwhelmed when People's Trust slapped her with a lawsuit with nearly 200 pages of exhibits. Not only is she reminded of Hurricane Ian every day in the form of the damage that remains in her house, now she's being sued for trying to get her home back together.
It's just too much. It's just too much. Like I said, the depression, I have to fight it every day because of the number of things coming my way. And every time something like this happens, it's like, one more thing.
What People's Trust is saying in the lawsuit is that because Ms. Stewart allegedly carried out some repairs in her home for damage to her home caused by Hurricane Ian, that they should no longer be able or be responsible for paying any part of her claim.
Abidemi Oladipo of the Mubarak, Sharif, and Oladipo law firm agreed to take Stewart on as a client. Before fighting for policyholders, he used to represent insurance companies, including People's Trust. Right now, he tells me the firm represents at least 5 people who People's Trust sued for repairing their homes with their own contractors.
Once People's Trust invoked their right to repair through Rapid Response Team, that the individuals from People's Trust would tell the homeowner that Rapid Response Team could not get to their repairs for a period of 8 to 12 months, varying degrees from different clients.
People's Trust told me they have an exclusive contract with the preferred contractor, Rapid Response Team, or RRT. On its website, it claims to be the state's largest insurance restoration general contractor, made up of more than 200 full-time employees that operate out of 9 response centers around the state. People's Trust's chief operating officer told me both the insurance company and RRT are owned by the same person, People's Trust's president and CEO, George Schaefer. He also said the insurer received more than 12,000 Hurricane Ian claims.
Which means as the homeowner, you're sitting there in your damaged home with a tarp on your roof trying to protect your family and your property. If they cannot perform the repairs within a reasonable period of time, you have to question why they invoked the right to repair on so many homeowners' policies.
So I brought these concerns to People's Trust. Initially, the company told me the chief operating officer, Tom Gallagher, would do an interview with me. But when he called, he was hesitant to talk on the record.
I'm doing a story on this, so I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to speak on the record about what's going on. Are you able to do an interview on the record?
After a little back and forth, he agreed to go on the record by phone later that same day.
Okay, sure. When does that work for you?
Gallagher is no stranger to insurance in Florida. In fact, he was state insurance commissioner from 1989 to 1995 and again from 2001 to 2007. In 2008, he helped start an insurance agency, according to his bio on the People's Trust website. The website also says he's been a government consultant for the past 5 years for a law firm that specializes in insurance regulation and litigation. He joined People's Trust full-time 6 years ago.
We don't take pleasure in suing our policyholders, I can tell you that. And it's a very small percentage that it happens in, but we do try to get claims settled as soon as possible. When we have people that aren't following what the contract says, we try to encourage them to get to go along with us.
Why is People's Trust Insurance Company suing dozens of homeowners in just one county?
If our policyholders don't follow what the contract, which is the policy, calls for, and many times they don't follow it because they're given bad advice by a damage consultant, loss consultant, or public adjuster. some cases a lawyer that tells them to do certain things and not follow what the policy says, it causes them not to get their home repaired the way it should be.
So are homeowners supposed to wait a year after Ian hit in order for their homes to be fixed?
We would hope not, and we'd rather not.
He feels that bad advice from others is why People's Trust's customers end up in court.
We have the right to repair. We don't write checks. We repair the homes. And so that's what the policy says, and that's what we plan on doing.
Regardless, Oladipo believes the Florida Office of Insurance Regulation should do some digging.
So the question is, when will they be made whole? When would their home be restored back to its pre-loss condition?
Florida Insurance Commissioner Michael Yavorsky told me his office is looking into it.
And that's really what we want to mostly look at is whether or not the service is being performed is up to the standards that one would expect to receive from their insurer.
As for Stewart, her family will have to live in their Hurricane Ian damaged home until the lawsuit is resolved. She is not allowed to make any repairs.
I don't understand why our government allows them to do stuff like this. It's just not fair. It's just not fair.
I reached out to People's Trust President and CEO George Schaefer for comment. A spokesperson replied saying their policyholders see the preferred contractor endorsement as a, quote, tremendous benefit since they don't need to scramble finding reliable contractors and service workers to complete work, and that their, quote, affiliate rapid response team provides a 100% satisfaction guarantee on workmanship. I've reached out to several lawmakers about this clause and will bring you any updates. Back to you.
From sorrowful sludge site to sanctuary, but where is it? The Dunbar area was promised a park nearly 5 years ago. The decades-old sludge site on South Street was supposed to become a park.
Yeah, years later, that community has lost faith in the city of Fort Myers to keep its promise. Wake News consumer investigator Andryanna Sheppard digs for answers on when they'll see that transformation.
Water, tall grass, and weeds. That's all Jordan Brown's ever seen across the street from his home in Dunbar.
We just playing now.
That was when he was a child. Now, as an adult, he learned his playground was a lime sludge dump site. According to the city of Fort Myers' website dedicated to this issue, the city bought the lot in the 60s for that very purpose, something Fort Myers City Councilman Johnny Streeps, who represents the Dunbar area, says wasn't abnormal back then.
They really didn't care what they put out there as long as it was out there, as opposed to Valmere, which is McGregor. To me, it was environmental racism. Fort Myers was not the only one.
As the neighborhood grew, the dumping continued until the city built a new water plant in 1993. And the sludge, which samples showed over the years contained arsenic in excess of residential standards, stayed put. It's an issue Wink News has covered for years.
They felt it was okay for them to dump this stuff in our neighborhood and not even give us signs or warnings or flyers to say, be careful, don't go in this area. To think now that we could have been exposed to something serious and deadly is just, traumatizing, really.
The World Health Organization says long-term exposure to arsenic can cause cancer and skin lesions. It's also been linked to cardiovascular disease and diabetes. The community only learned of the neighborhood's arsenic-filled wasteland about 10 years later, when they also learned at least one well's arsenic levels was really high. The city agreed to clean it all up in 2018 and finished in early 2019. Shortly after, the community was promised the lot would come to life as City View Park. The renderings released back then show a playground, walkways, and spots to sit and relax. But more than 4 years later, where is it? There are no walkways, no playgrounds, and no places to sit. Instead, the people of this community have only been locked out. The only changes in their view have been the locks, the gates, and the man-made ponds.
That ain't getting done. Centennial Park is redid. They redid that.
In the more than 4 years since the community was promised a park, Centennial Park, less than 3 miles away in downtown, got a makeover, complete with a new playground, walkways, seating, and an amphitheater, making many of the people in this Dunbar neighborhood feel pushed aside once again.
When they start, I put my trust in you. To them, nah, it's a waste of time and think about it.
Mayor Kevin Anderson told me he understands why people in Dunbar would feel that way.
Renovating a park versus constructing a park is very different. However, we're going to start seeing some activity with City View Park.
The community is absolutely right. I stand with them. We have somewhat neglected the deprived and depressed areas. That's why this council and the mayor has created a master plan for parks all over the city of Fort Myers.
So I asked the director of Parks and Rec for a copy of that master plan. Guess what? There isn't one. I was told there were no plans, designs, or renderings because they aren't in that phase yet. But the design firm is set to present their findings to City Council in April.
Do you know how long it might take for that community to be able to walk past those gates?
I really hate to try and pinpoint a date because that opening date is really going to be a moving target at this point.
So people like Brown will keep staring at that now gated sludge site they used to play in as kids. The place they were promised would become a safe place for kids to play. Do you have faith that they will do something?
Nah, it's over with. Nah, if it ain't God, I ain't doing nothing.
The mayor told me the city of Fort Myers is below the standard for green spaces and parks for a city of its size. So a part of that master plan will be to ask residents to vote and pay to help cover the costs of more parks. In Fort Myers, Andryanna Sheppard, Wink News.
One family wants you to think twice before taking that puppy in the Petland window home. Bella has cost them thousands, and now they're taking Petland to court. Wink News consumer investigator Andryanna Sheppard breaks down their battle to save their new furry family member's life and what you need to know before you buy a dog.
This is Bella, an almost 5-month-old, playful, happy golden retriever very much loved by the Simpson family. But the road to get here has been long, painful, and expensive. Court documents show the Simpsons paid about $8,000 for Bella a few days after Christmas at the South Fort Myers Petland.
She became an instant family member.
Less than a week later, they rushed her to an emergency vet.
She tested positive for parvo, which in a pup her age is super dangerous and deadly.
Vets say dogs infected with the parvovirus usually become ill within 3 to 7 days after exposure. The American Veterinary Medical Association defines it as a highly contagious disease that attacks a dog's white blood cells, gastrointestinal tract, and heart. They can get it from another infected dog, contact with virus-contaminated surfaces like water bowls, even from a person who handles infected dogs.
We could either euthanize her or we could, put $5,800 down and get her through 2 days. For us, it was a no-brainer.
The Simpsons filled Petland in. According to the lawsuit, a store manager said Bella's diagnosis was, quote, impossible, and the, quote, test must be a false positive. Also, their warranty called for taking Bella to a Petland-approved vet, but they decided to keep her at the 24-hour vet to get the continuous monitoring she needed to fight the virus.
The part that made me super frustrated was getting calls daily saying that the lemon law applies and that we could just trade her in for another dog or we could get a full refund.
Florida's pet lemon laws say a pet dealer cannot knowingly misrepresent a dog's health, breed, or sex. If a vet later determines that the dog was unfit for sale, the owner can return it for a full refund, exchange it, or keep it. No matter what the owner decides, the pet dealer must pay for any reasonable pet bills to treat or cure the dog. Court documents show Bella's 24-hour vet found her unfit for sale because she had parvo.
I wouldn't wish it on any other family, that's for sure.
The Simpsons filed a complaint with the Lee County Domestic Animal Services. About a week before the Simpsons first met Bella, Domestic Animal Services and the Lee County Sheriff's Office seized dozens of dogs in a van headed to multiple pet stores, including the South Fort Myers Petland. An inspection revealed several puppies endured deplorable and unsanitary conditions within the van, lacking proper ventilation and access to water. Bella was not on that van. Wink News also reported on a similar seizure back in 2018.
We told them about Bella having parvo and our concerns about other pets.
The Simpsons also filed a complaint with the Florida Attorney General's office. A spokesperson told me they've gotten 2 other complaints about sick puppies since July 2023. The Consumer Protection Division is reviewing them. My name's Andryanna Sheppard. I'm a consumer investigative reporter here at Wink News. How you doing? I asked Petland about the lawsuit, complaints, and recent seizure. The Vice President of Public and Legislative Affairs said they assumed ownership of the Fort Myers location in 2020, and they don't know of any complaints with the Attorney General's office. They also said the store owner wants to satisfy the Simpsons warranty by paying the vet bills up to the purchase price of Bella, but can't because the family hasn't given them any invoices and they were asked not to contact the family. As for the recent puppy seizure, they say they are no longer doing business with that transport company.
We can't go more than a few days without someone contacting us with a Petland-related horror story.
John Goodwin is a senior director for the Humane Society of the United States. The organization has done numerous years-long investigations into petlands across the country.
We have linked Petland to puppy mills that keep the dogs in conditions that the average person would find abhorrent.
Goodwin warns, think twice before you buy a dog from any Petland, but know that different Petland locations may be owned and run by different people.
It is truly rolling the dice. You might end up with a puppy who's just fine, but you also may end up with a puppy who's very ill.
And if you decide to shop, not adopt, do your research.
Meet the breeder, meet the mother dog, and see where the mother dog lives. That's the only way that you're going to have the transparency to ensure that you're dealing with someone reputable.
We were all sitting here crying, not knowing if she was going to make it, not knowing how we were going to afford to keep her there, not knowing what was the right decision if she was suffering.
After days of treatment, Bella turned a corner. But saving her life cost the Simpsons close to $13,000, according to court documents. Money, they say, was well spent and should be reimbursed.
She is 100% different than when we first bought her. Now she is just this fun, loving puppy that wants to be next to us at all times.
The Simpsons want to make sure no one goes through what they did. So they sued Petlands of Fort Myers earlier this month. Petland has not yet responded to the suit. You can find the Florida pet lemon laws on the Wink News website, so you know what to look for before you buy that puppy in the window. Back to you.